How y'all doing? I got myself a new knife sitting on the table here, and this is another Miguron. This one is the Akri. Yes, that is actually the one. I didn't somehow in my mind make up a different name for it like I did with the Vaso slash Vera, I think I called it. But this thing surprised me quite a bit. I do like it a lot. This is a front flipper, a lot like that Vaso, but much larger. They have it measured, they kind of advertise it as being a 3.5 inch blade. However, I've measured it and I think I'm not sure exactly what they're measuring from, maybe from a sharpen point out or something. I don't know, I got 3.78 inches out of this thing here. It's got a nice G10 handle on it. We can see some nice micro milling. Maybe, yeah, you can see a little bit of it going on in there. So nice texture on there. Obviously not peel ply, but still pretty darn grippy on this guy. Yeah. Some nice liners here. Of course, they have their titanium milled pocket clips, which I do appreciate. We have a pretty darn nice action. It did take me a little bit of taking it apart and cleaning it up to kind of get it up to that point. It was still a decent action before, but now it's drop shutty, whereas before it was a wiggle shut. So hey, that's nice. I can improve that a little bit. This one is in their DC53, as you can see way up top here. Blade steel, and I've talked about it before. DC53 is a kind of a D2 derivative kind of steel, but unlike something like Crewware, it's not a particle metallurgy version of it. That being said, when it's actually heat treated correctly, like Miguron seems to do, this turns into a giant pain in the butt to sharpen. Or I shouldn't necessarily say sharpen. I should say reprofile, because I generally do reprofile most of my knives when they come in to just kind of degrees that I end up wanting. And I've reprofiled this like I would D2 or 14C28N to 17 degrees, and this took a long time. But then again, so did the Velona, the much larger 10 folder. So I was kind of expecting that. This one did come with it's got some micro scratches in there, which is kind of interesting. Kind of happened on both sides there. But it's probably really visible because this has a pretty high polish on there. I can still see some grain lines from a belt satin, but this is a very high polish kind of thing. The handle on this thing is actually pretty comfortable. It does get quite thin down at the end there, but kind of widens up there at the top. This is something that if you're not paying attention, you can slide your finger up and open yourself up. I haven't done that yet, but hey, it is something that could potentially happen if you really aren't paying attention. But because it keeps getting wider, you will end up feeling that. So I don't really feel unsafe at all using this thing. The plunge grind on this thing is pretty darn good, whereas it's here. So I got quite a few sharpenings before I would end up hitting that guy up. And is it sharp? Yeah, it is. This is phone book paper. So. Something I do want to mention here is the grind on this is quite a bit better than what happened on the Vaso, that little tiny guy. This one is behind the edge is a lot more like its larger brethren, so this is a bit more slicey of a blade. We got 3.35 millimeter blade stock on this. So a little bit on the thinner side, but still has a bit of heft to it. And as you can see with the other ones, they do have a crown spine going on there. They don't really have a flipper tab, but you can see we have mostly crowned things everywhere here. Not the top there, but you're not really meant to interact with that. So I have no problems with it remaining a little more squared off. So yeah, I mentioned the grind on this thing. Pretty darn good on it. We have quite a large blade for what I thought was going to be a bit smaller of a knife, so that makes me happy. Since, you know, it's very, very comfortable in the hand. I do have a little bit more that I have on the end there, in case, you know, someone wants to choke back, they can do that. Sometimes, and with this one in particular, I do kind of have to do that if I want to use the jimping, because if I'm right up behind the edge, well, my thumb really doesn't feel comfortable when it's all bent like that. So yeah, it works a little bit more for me in a relaxed saber grip. But of course, hammer grip works super, super nice on that. Reverse, yep, also nice. Really nice rounded area in the back there for kind of hooking your thumb on that. That's great. We have pretty much the standard lanyard kind of hole plunked through there, but hey, it goes through the back spacer, so that puts a little bit less stress from wear on whatever lanyard kind of material that you would want to use on there, so that's pretty darn good. This thing is, it's got some skeletonized handles, but it's still a little weighty there. You know, we have these contoured G10 handles, and some fairly substantial liners on here. So we have 3.78 ounces, or about 107 grams. And it is a little bit thicker because it's contours, so we have 0.56 of an inch there. So it's a little bit thicker than a PM2. Speaking of which, I could probably break out that and some others for some size comparison things. So there's that. Let's see, there's my Benchmade 940. And this one's a little larger, so yeah, we'll go with the rat number 1. And yeah, you could definitely see this one is quite a bit larger than that Vaso is. Speaking of the Vaso, just as a random aside, I actually have mine over here. I did dye the scales purple, and that turned out pretty darn well. However, as I was taking this thing apart initially, I lost one of the bearings on this thing. They're the nylon caged ceramic ones, but these are 4 millimeters rather than 6. And I've looked all over for it down here where I first disassembled the knife, couldn't find it, took my vacuum around, and it didn't suck it up either, so I have no idea. It's probably one of those things. I might find it whenever we move or sell this place. But, yeah, I'm having a hell of a time trying to find 4 millimeter replacements. I can find 5 and 6, and, of course, a whole bunch of US sizes, but if anybody's familiar with where I can find some of those smaller pivot-sized bearings, please let me know. But yeah, back to the actual knife at hand here. Yeah, super nice. I do appreciate that. There is just like the larger one, but this really takes a lot of getting close to it and looking at it in different lights. Seems like about at the tip here, there's a little bit of wavering kind of going on in the grind there. It's definitely not straight up off like the fullers are on that Velona, but it does look like either they were finished by hand or the machine had a little bit of jitter kind of out there at the tip that didn't quite get that even. Absolutely doesn't affect performance in any particular way, and only really affects you if you notice it and put it right up next to your face and stare at it. But, you know, as a knife and a tool, hey, it's works super, super great. Like I said, this thing is a gigantic pain in the butt to reprofile. But because of that, I'm sure that this thing will last a very, very long time. I did a cut test on the larger one, the Velona, and got about 800 cuts of this this here rope, which is 3/8, or yeah, 3/8 of an inch, I think, something like that. Well, actually, still have it here. Yeah, 3/8 of an inch, which is like 9.45 maybe millimeters. So yeah, it holds up pretty darn good, and a little bit better than most D2. So that's actually pretty darn good. We can go ahead and bust this guy out. I will point out here, they use a similar pivot that Civivi uses, whereas it has a little notch on the underside of here to keep it centered. So the pivot hole in there is perfectly round, but it is centered using the scale here on the front. But yeah, let's see. Looks like everything is T8, including the pocket clip. So that's nice. Keep note that with the pocket clip, the one on top is a little bit longer than the other one because it actually reaches through to there. Yeah, pull that out and we can see we have a pivot collar here on the front. That's just to help it kind of look a little bit similar to the that one over there. But otherwise, yep, just nice black G10 on the inside here. Can open that up and we can see we have quite a bit of skeletonization going on there. But these are fairly substantial liners and not made out of the cheapest material possible, so they do have some weight to them. We don't have any particular races or anything in the liners, but they'll work their way to that in time probably anyway. We can see we got the ceramic balls here in brass cages rather than nylon, which some companies use. And we can see that on the back here, even though you can't see it from normal hardware, we do basically have some brass things that are holding on this G10 backspacer here. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. We do have a smaller hole here than the full width of that stop pin there. That just makes it a little bit easier for it to stay in place as you're assembling the knife. And, oh yeah, while I'm here, I might as well show you what I'm talking about here, where you can see on this pivot, we get a little bit of a notch there at the end. And that's because, it's probably hard to see this on black, but you can see that we have a little bit of this thing over here on the side that's a little bit more raised up. And that's to make sure that their only branding on the knife is represented exactly the way that they want it to be represented. But you do have to be careful when trying to put this thing back together, because that thing can fall out of that particular alignment, and that can be really frustrating when you're trying to throw everything back together. But at least with it not having the D-shaped pivot that you have to try to line up on this liner, you don't have to worry exactly about the position that it ends up being in. Makes it just a little bit easier to slapdash throw everything on there. This thing didn't come with any Loctite on it, but that's perfectly fine with me. Means that if I want it, I can put that on there, but I haven't found the need yet to do so. This is still a fairly new knife to me, so after quite a bit more play with it, I might find the need to do that. But, you know, out of the box, I'm not really dealing with any crazy walking of the pivot collar, so that's nice. But yeah, very simple construction, and I definitely approve well, approve and prefer, that's the word that I wanted to use, when you're screwing things into these guys. I mean, my absolute favorite is probably the Chicago style screws that Tucson ends up using just for ease of putting any things back together. But some people really don't like pieces of hardware that are tooled that you can't actually turn. So I guess for those people, something like this ends up working out just a little bit better for them. Do you want to adjust the pivot a little bit? There we go. Yeah, nice and drop shut again there. The first time I closed it like that after I got it adjusted, it does make a bit of a metallic sound, as you can hear here. And my first thought was, oh no, is there blade wrap? But luckily there's not. For one, there's no things in the way of the blade here. And also, if it was going to hit anything, it was going to hit G10 in the back there. And yeah, that's just basically it, because it's free floating there, hitting the backstop pin. So yeah, we're good. It just makes kind of a ting noise. Some people really appreciate that. I don't necessarily care one way or the other. So, yeah, there we go. That is basically what I wanted to cover here with the Miguron Akri. Like I said earlier, I do really appreciate the thinner grind that this one has over that really small one here that's in a whole bunch of pieces that I was talking about earlier. But yes, if it's absolutely anything like the Velona that also use the same steel from the same company, then this thing will perform very, very well. One last thing I'll probably mention here is there is a newer variant of this. I haven't seen it out in the wild, but they have it listed on their website, which means it might be coming up soon, or maybe I just hadn't seen it beforehand. But it's using tan G10, so a little bit lighter than something like you get on the rat one. Obviously, this is nylon, it's not G10, but hey, I don't have a tan G10 knife right in front of me at the moment. I have a few, but anyway, that's not important. But that one does change out the blade steel to 14C28N. So for the people who don't really like using tool steels on a regular basis, then you definitely have that. You're going to lose probably a fairly significant amount of edge retention on there. But hey, it's going to be much easier to sharpen and maintain. So there you go. I don't know if that's replacing this or not. I kind of doubt it, because this one was sold out. And then White Mountain Knives got more of them in and let me know, so I picked it up. So obviously they just had some more either in the warehouse or they're continuing to make it. I don't know. But either way, I do like it quite a bit. A little bit on the hefty side. Like I said, it is, you know, pretty close to 4 ounces there, 3.78. So, yeah, that's basically everything that I wanted to cover. It's a neat little knife. The fit is great. The finish, as with basically all of these guys from Miguron, is not immaculate, but they do make very competent tools that, yeah, I really don't have any particular qualms with. So, all right. As always, I appreciate y'all for watching, and have yourself a wonderful rest of your day, yo. Subscribe, please.